Continuing discussion on how to do what you love for a living coming up right after this. Good afternoon, this is Lucky Links. I'm going to use a little bit of my own experience and a little bit of what I know from my experience and a little bit of wisdom from the cards for this question. Someone said to me, I shot a video yesterday about how to do what you love, and I think it was actually my partner who came up with this this topic for me. He said, I'm noticing right now I am getting inundated with people who are struggling figuring out how to think creatively. And it is a huge topic because when people face obstacles and things stand in their way, a lot of time you have to learn how to adapt and be creative and come at things from a different angle. We are actually taught not to do that. You know, we're actually taught to those skills aren't valuable. But as I said yesterday in the video, I see right now those skills are more valuable than ever. And my partner said, you know, you should start to tell people or talk to people about how to be creative. Or he said, create a creativity master course or something like that. And I looked at him and I said, oh my gosh, it felt like for me, it just felt like getting beat up over and over and over again until finally I didn't want to get beat up anymore. And I don't know how to explain that. And I was very uncomfortable when he said that. He said, you know, tell him this. And then I had some dreams about it. And I said, okay, I think this is something. And so I shot that video yesterday, and a couple people have already said some things like, oh my gosh, I really needed to hear this. This is right up my alley. And then someone else said something, Susan said on the video yesterday, 25 years of not being able to make a living with my art, even with lots of marketing, it's just not in the cards for me, I guess. And we were on a walk this morning, and I thought about, there was a point when I stopped teaching. I stopped teaching at school. The way that the administration was going and the way that the colleges were rearranging, I saw what was coming and I didn't want to be a part of it. And I've said this on the station before. And for those of you who really want to know what's going on in the educational system, especially if you're in the art, into your arts, well, actually, it doesn't matter. If you're in the arts, if you're in medicine, if you're in, no matter what you're in, read the Leipsic Connection. If you really want to know what's going on with education, read the book, The Leipsic Connection. It'll make your blood run cold. It really will. And it explained so many things that I saw when I was teaching that I could not explain. I thought I was a crazy person in an insane asylum. And I'm like, is no one seeing this? Why is no one seeing this? And then I read the Leipsic Connection and I went, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. So that's the first thing. Read the Leipsic Connection and see exactly how creativity is being treated in our educational system. See how the sciences are being treated. See how independent thought, see how critical thinking is being treated. It's like a 95-page book, and it is one of the most valuable books you will ever read about what's going on with education. So I walked away from that, and then I had wanted to write children's books desperately, and there was a book that I got up every morning. I worked on the book, and you know, when we were in grad school, we were always talking about how hard it was to get an agent, and if you could get an agent, you were lucky if an agent would even look at it. And I finished this children's book, and I was really proud of it. I thought it was really good, and I started sending it to agents, and agents were like, "We want to see this." Yeah, I want this. I mean, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me, because it was like the holy grail of, you know. And I started to get things back that said, I like this, but I don't know how to market it. We like it. It's good. It's very good. Really like it. But I'm not going to, I don't know how to market it. And that was, I swear, that was the point where I was like, I give up. I just give up. At that point, I was on autopilot for a while, and I was still working as a professional psychic. And to be honest, I didn't see back then how all these things kind of fit together. I really didn't. Now I do. Now I see that this really is an art. It is the divinatory arts, and I have been doing this my whole life along with the other things. But I didn't see it back then. And many of the things that I've learned through tarot reading and through magic and through Bon actually made its way into my novels. And I've written quite a few novels under the name Hayden Chance, and I even hit the Amazon bestseller at one point with 2 of the books, which was exciting. But back then I said I give up. I just give up. There's 3 things that you have to take into consideration here. If you're in a situation like this, where you feel like you want to do what you really, you're either creative or you're an artist, or maybe you're an entrepreneur. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that creativity expresses itself. You don't have to be an artist. You can be someone who's an entrepreneur and is very good at sales, and you want to break out on your own, which is, sales is an art in itself. I mean, all of the, everything in its highest form, is an art. There's 3 things that you have to consider. You have to fight for it. If this is really what you want, you have to fight for it. And I was just talking to my master, His Holiness Padma Rinpoche, about this yesterday. And I said, it's funny because at this time, I am getting more and more people coming to me saying, how do I develop a creative process? I actually have some students of mine and some friends who are cosmologists who are working on trying to figure out how to stay more creative. And I said, I can show you how to use the cards to create a creative process like that. I mean, the cards can be one of the greatest tools for creativity. I've used them in writing novels. I've used story cubes in writing novels. I've used a whole bunch of media like this and divinatory tools to create all sorts of things. Sometimes you got to figure out how to break out of your old patterns, and I could probably do some videos on that. But there's 3 things that you have to consider here in how you approach this stuff. You have to be willing to fight for it. And I did not realize this until I seriously got into deciding that I was no longer going to let publishers, because publishers would buy my work and they would mutilate it. They would buy my work and then they wouldn't market it. They would buy my, I got, when I was a kid, there was a magazine, there was a national magazine I wanted to get into. And when I started college, I found this magazine. It was a literary magazine. It was the top literary magazine in this area. And I said, one day I'm going to get into it. When I was in grad school, I sold a chapter of my novel. I got in this magazine. The editor came to town. He said, I'm going to take you to dinner. I met this man. He was insulting. He was rude. He was just mean, and he hated what he did. And I sat there going, why do I want to be a part of this? And I could constantly see jadedness, agenda, and I was selling stuff, and I was still starving, and, I wanted to take them out of the equation because I didn't like their vision. I didn't like the way they behaved. I didn't like the way they talked to people. I didn't like their pessimistic view on the world. This man who was the editor of this literary magazine was so pessimistic. I couldn't believe it. He was just, jaded wasn't the word. He was downright negative. And I said, this is not the way. When I really got serious about taking it further, and it was actually my master, His Holiness Padma Rinpoche, who started pushing me to get back into writing, because I said, I'm never going back. I'm done. He was the one who pushed me to go back, and after he pushed me, and along with my spiritual practices, I started writing novels that I said, forget it. I want to tell the story I want to tell. I am tired of editors messing with it. I am tired of the publishing industry. And then Amazon hit, and I said, all right, I'm going to put these novels out there. And then the day I woke up to find one of my novels on the bestseller list, and it was ahead of one of the novels that had inspired me to write when I was younger, I couldn't believe it. That was a really interesting moment. But I realized around that time that in order for you to create beauty, you have to create a space in which you're willing to protect beauty. Because if you're not, it's like taking a beautiful piece of art, throwing it in a public john, and opening the door for everyone to come and do their business on it. If you are going to create beauty in the world, and I don't care if you're an artist, I don't care if you're a salesperson, I don't care if you're a business individual who's opening up your own restaurant, your own cafe, you're a seamstress, or someone who does sewing, or if you're a person who just wants their own insurance firm and they want to treat people well, whatever it is, you're creative. You have to create a space where what you create is protected. Otherwise, it will be destroyed. There are people out there that do not want you to create. They do not want you to have your vision. They do not want you to express what is really honest and true. There is the same story being told over and over again 50 million different ways, and it's not a great story right now. You look at entertainment, there's a lot of dysfunction that's being passed off as art. There's a lot of aim low. There's a lot of victimhood. There's a lot of horrible things that are being expressed as art right now. They're not uplifting. They're not giving people the possibility of a vision for a brighter future. When I moved here to California, I even learned, I met a woman who actually used to do color for a living. She would actually help figure out. She told me how colors for a season in fashion came into being. Someone would decide what colors were going to be the colors for the season, and they would determine the moods of all the people. If any of you have ever dealt with color therapy or dealt with art therapy or dance therapy, you can see how movement, color, these things affect us deeply. And if someone decides to put out drab colors for a season, and if you go out there right now and you start to look at what colors are out there, they're kind of drab. We did this as an experiment. We went to different stores and we looked at what colors are going out in the sheets and the clothes. They're kind of drab. And now stuff's going on to make people depressed, and there's colors that are being presented to people at all the different stores. Someone's deciding this. So you have to first recognize that there's something going on in the world that's shaping what people are perceiving as beauty, shaping creativity, and what's allowing creativity. So you have to be willing to fight. That's the first thing. You have to be willing to fight for your vision. You have to be willing to fight for your own voice. You have to be willing to fight for what's important to you. That's the first thing. If you're going to give up, that's it. You're done. And I don't care. What's the old Asian proverb? Fall down 6 times, get up 7. That's the first thing. You have to fight for it, okay? The second part is you have to learn from your mistakes. What didn't work before is, first of all, start to look at everything as a creative problem. This is the creative problem I've got. I need to reach people. I need to create this. I need to make this. I need to figure out how to synthesize these treasures that I have or these gifts they have into something that's a creative something that I can share with people. Once I start to share it with people, how do they respond? You must at that point start to learn from your mistakes. Is it the way that you're presenting it? Is it the medium through which you're presenting it? Is it how your tone is? Is it how you are presenting yourself? Is it the story that you're wrapping it in? What isn't working? Find out what isn't working and learn from your mistakes. From there, you can shift and change how you present it. You can shift and change how you connect to people. There was a time where I was doing an awful lot of hypnosis in Chicago, and I was actually placing an ad in a paper that was very unusual and had very unusual clientele. And I learned so much about how I interacted with people about hypnosis. First of all, I couldn't see them. It was all through email. I had to convince them through email that this is what they needed. They had to convince me through email what their problem was, and we had to find out if it was a match and if hypnosis would work for them, if it was the appropriate tool for work for them. I learned so much from how I communicated to people and how I presented through my language, and I learned, if I said, what issues do you have, people would take off. If I said, what challenges do you have, people would say, well, and they'd tell me what the challenges were. So learn from your mistakes, learn from how you present it, learn from what you present, learn from what you wrap it in, and learn from your persona and your image. What do people respond to? What do people not respond to? And somewhere in the middle of it all, you've got to let your style and your authenticity shine through. And I know that's a word, that's a buzzword that's being used a lot right now, but it really is true. You can't fake this stuff. So if you're trying to shift in a way that pleases everyone, you're going to end up pleasing no one. But figure out what is working and what isn't working, and then learn from your mistakes. The third thing is that you have to focus on the real truth. Now, I was actually working with someone the other day who was an artist. We were actually discussing this kind of thing because it came up in a reading. She was asking, how do I deal with this? And she said, well, every time I do this, I all this stuff from the past comes up, and this, and I'm saying, well, that's not the part you put on camera. You put the part on camera that shows your passion and your creativity. So you may wake up today, you may have a headache, you may feel like you're horrible, you may feel like you've brutalized in the art world, you may feel like you've been trying to make it yourself, you may have fallen down 6 times and have to come up 7 when you turn that camera on, or you start that sketch, or you start that writing that book. You leave that stuff out and you focus on what's the real message, what's the real thing that you want to put out there in the world. The best lesson I got from this was when I first started into the New Age. This is actually what led me really to go deeply into it. One of my best friend's aunts did my numbers for me. And I was working on a novel at the time, and she asked me what the novel is about, and I told her. And it was brutal. It was sad, it was down, it was all these things. And she said to me, why is it that she goes, why do you want to put that out in the world? Isn't there enough of that out there already? And I thought, whoa, I may be frustrated. I may have this, I may have experienced that. Is that really what I want to get out there? Or what is it what's the real truth that I want people to wake up to? And what's it that I really want them to experience? Now, in this particular field, there's a lot of different points of view, a lot of different approaches, and a lot of different way people go about things. And I had to personally figure out how I wanted to present this, what my style was, and what kinds of readings, how I wanted to approach people, and what kind of messages I wanted to tell people. Because there were certain messages that I found that might have been more popular that I didn't find were the truth. And so I could have either jumped on the bandwagon and said, okay, this is the truth, or said, hey, I'm going to do this because it may get me more something or other. But I know of what I know from my spiritual practice, from my Tibetan bond practice. And there are certain things I said, I'm not willing to say that because I know damn well that's not the truth. And there's a whole bunch of people saying that's the truth. And for those of you who didn't see, when all that Trump impeachment stuff started, right when it started, not when they said that, they weren't going to impeach him or everything. No, right when it started, there was a flurry of people out there doing readings and stuff saying, oh, he's going to be impeached. He's going to be taken out. Astrology says he's going to be taken out. And I said, look, I got tired of seeing it. I said, look, he is not going to get impeached. This is what's going to happen. He's still going to be, you can go back and watch that video. It was from last summer when it's all started. And people were like, you're wrong. Astrology says, and I said, hey, that's not what I'm seeing. That's what's coming through as the truth, and that's what I'm going to express. Now, I could have expressed it a different way to try to jump on the bandwagon or try to this or try to present myself in a certain way. I said, no, I'm going to go, this is going against the grain, but I'm still going to do it. And I pushed it out there, and then boom, it happened. And then all of a sudden people were like, oh, well, we all knew that. I'm like, really? Because when the video was out there, people were saying you're wrong. The same thing happened when I was doing cryptocurrency stuff. People were paying me to do cryptocurrency stuff. And I said, I don't want to know anything about this stuff. I'm just going to put it out what I see. People are like, well, you need to read that. And I don't need to read anything. I just need to go what the message is and put it out there. And I got some people who were in the cryptocurrency field who were really vulgar and really rude. And I was like, all right. So I left it out there, and then a year later, people were writing me and go, wow, congratulations, this came through. Those are all still on my channel, too, if you want to go back and look at them. Focus on what the real truth is. Focus on what it is you're trying to express. Focus on what the message is that you want to get out there. Not on the fact that you're having a bad day. Not on the fact that the camera didn't work. Not on the fact that your kids and the dog just threw up on the carpet. Not on the fact that you're tired. When you get that camera going, or you get that sales call, or you get that letter that you're writing, or whatever, that's not the truth you're trying to express. If you're saying, I'm creative and I'm an artist and I want to express beauty and joy in the world, then don't come and tell people how you're feeling run down and you may have chronic fatigue syndrome and it's all sad because you are giving a mixed message. So, are you willing to fight for it? Learn from your mistakes, focus on what the real truth is and what it is you're really trying to say. And if you like these videos on creativity, I think I'm going to continue with these because I think they're really important right now, and people really need to figure out how can I do what I love? How can I be creative? How can I be myself? Because, and I was going to say this earlier, when you let this stuff derail you, and when you let, the publishing industries derail you, and Hollywood derail you, and everyone, and the schools derail you, when you let this stuff derail you and you give up, you are letting someone else determine your reality for you. And in several videos in which all this stuff that's been happening in the world lately, I've been telling you, in Tibetan Bond, we talk about this stuff as being purification. If you are giving up on your light because you're too lazy, or because you're fed up, or because you want to look at the negative side of it, or because you think it's easier just to let them win, you will be purified until you find what that spark is and you start to express that spark. Now, not many people realize this, but if you're not being who you really are, you're going to get your ass kicked. And you're going to get it kicked and kicked and kicked until you start to realize there is something more inside of you that is here to be that something more. And if you let, the corporations are winning, or this and that's winning, and you let it all win, and you don't fight for it, well, something's going to come along that's going to make you either want to fight, or it's going to crush you to the point that finally you're going to have to come back and do it again. I'm Lucky Links. I guess we're not using the cards today. I guess there was enough in just from what I had to say because of my big mouth. If you like these videos about this subject and you want me to do more about them, I'd be happy to do some more on creativity. What are your questions about it? What are your questions on making a living as a creative person? I know that marketing is a big one for people. It's really like, how do you reach people? I know that's a tricky one, but I mean, what do you have? What questions do you have about this? I can tell you from my own experience. I can tell you what I know too. The other thing is I've taken a lot of training and a lot of different things in terms of how to put this stuff together. So do you like these videos on this subject? Are you interested in this subject? What more would you like to learn about this subject? Creativity. I think too that people have a challenge thinking outside the box, and what questions you have about all this. If you would like to get a reading with me, 779-302-8009 or conjurehope@gmail.com. Or if you would like to get your astrology chart done to find out actually what's going in your chart and where the creativity lies and what the purpose is that's trying to push you towards, contact me, 779-302-8009 or conjurehope@gmail.com. If you want to take a class in how to read the tarot, playing cards, Mexican Loteria, crystal balls, or Lenormand, contact me as well. Hey, you like these videos and you want to donate to help keep them coming? I would be very grateful because people are donating and it's wonderful. I'll put my PayPal, my Venmo below. Yes, I am busy. Yes, I do have lots of clients, but I am still taking clients. And for basic readings, I'm still fitting people in as much as I can, during the week in my schedule and their schedule. And then the astrology charts, I'm speeding up a little bit, but there's still a wait. I appreciate all of you who have been patient. There's just me doing them, and I'm doing them all by hand. And when you open up something that has a person's whole life in it, you really want to treat it with care and give it the respect, the time it deserves. So I appreciate those of you who are waiting. So be creative, let that light out, and remember, fight for it. Find out what those mistakes are that you're making and learn from them. And then the other one is focus on what's really the truth, what's really important, what it is you're really trying to say, not the bad day you're having, but this is the beautiful thing that I do that I'm trying to express.